Preparing to go live. Got it. Wow, this is crazy. Hello, everybody. It says that there are 14 people watching. Can you enter the chat? Let me know that I can see you, that you're here, because I haven't done a live in forever. It's been forever, but I thought I was going to do one, and wanted to see if it works, first of all, and secondly, wanted to talk about edit rave that were happening. I had a conversation there yesterday. I gave a talk called the editing block theory, and I thought I was going to like run this one more time here in YouTube and entice you to maybe join us at Edit Rave, which is a free online editing webinar. Now I can't see any chat. Can you see if you can go onto my channel and just see if you have the option to see the live chat? Because I don't see anything. If somebody could just post a comment not in the chat, but in the regular comments, just to see if I'm actually live, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, there was chat going on.
Yeah, is chat going on? Okay. Oh, now it's coming up. I reloaded my page. Okay. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing? Well, how come you stumbled upon this live stream? Are you a subscriber? Did it just pop up in your feed? Again, I'm just going to take a second before we're going to start. We're going to talk about the editing block theory, which is a very sort of groundbreaking philosophy behind editing where you kind of think out of the box. And so, yeah, that's what's going to happen in just a second. Okay, let's see who we got in here. AD Edits, yo. Cake DS, how's it going? It's going great, man. Esna, hey all. Dominic, we're here. Very good. All right, very cool. Okay, we're going to see what happens. And once again, I appreciate you coming online. I gave a talk yesterday at the Edit Rave Editing Summit, and I would like to talk about it today as well. So Edit Rave, you can actually access for free. I'm going to give you the link. It's editrave.com. It's real simple. And we kind of have like 6 different frameworks that we themed this event with. And one of them is all about the craft. And this session in particular was about how can you like really build up your craft and become a better editor. So here we go. This is what we're going to do and talk about today. I'm going to show you the script of Ex Machina, and I'm going to describe to you what actually ended up being in the film. Unfortunately, I can't show it here, but I did some stills. I'm sort of going to do a little description of it. All right, cool. And then after that, sorry, I just lost my screen and it's back. We're going to do a little mini case study where I'm going to show this concept on a film that I cut. And luckily, I know that this film should not give me a copyright strike because I read up that if I play any other movies, they might shut down the stream because they can't really know what the regulations are, whether it's fair use or so. So they're just going to play safe. And then we'll dive into the theory and really look at what it is. Alrighty, and finally, I'm going to give you some tips to tell you how to get there. So buckle up. I hope you have a good 40 minutes because that's how long this talk is going to be. And then afterwards, I'll give you a little bit more of who are the people that are actually guest speaking at Edit Rave. I'm kind of like the host of this event, but we have like Kelly Dixon who cut Black Panther. We got Roger Nygaard, who cut on Veep. He's a guest speaker. And also very excited, Anthony Francisco from Marvel, who is the creator of Baby Groot. All right, anyway, who am I? You might know me from the YouTube channel This Guy Edits with over 470,000 subscribers by now. I also have an online course called the Go-To Editor. But really, I sort of started off as a working editor. And as such, I got lucky. I worked for James Cameron on the Ghost of the Abyss 3D IMAX film. I spent about 3.5 years working with Jim. I really enjoyed that. He's been a mentor to me without really realizing that he was. I learned so much. Anyway, I cut some other films. I really love The End of Love, which is a film that went to Sundance. And Mark and I, we've done 3 films together. And I actually just had a meeting with him yesterday with 20 of our students. He's currently coaching them to cut a feature film, which is awesome. Alrighty. So here we are. We're going to talk about Ex Machina. I wish I could show you the scene. Tell me in the chat if you know this video from Lessons from the Screenplay, because I didn't know this until like a couple of weeks ago. And he talks about kind of the opening of that film and how it like dramatically changed from what the original was. So I'm going to give credit to Lessons from the Screenplay to pointing me to this phenomena because it sort of fits with this theory, the editing block theory. And it's kind of the first stepping stone in realizing how powerful this really is. All right, here we go. So there's a script, there's a shooting script, and the scene that I'm going to describe to you consists of 5 pages. So they have 5 pages of dialogue. It's really early on. So our main character here, Caleb, I think is his name, he wins a prize. He works at a tech startup, and the prize is that he gets to hang out with the CEO of the company for a weekend. So he flies out in a helicopter, and this conversation takes place between him and the pilot. And it's a lengthy conversation where they talk about who he is, that he won a prize. Yeah, I'm just going to scroll through the pages, that he's a programmer, and that the pilot says, man, you're really lucky because not even the president gets to get a phone call with the CEO because he's so high up, and you get to hang out for a weekend with him. And so they continue this conversation for quite a while. And then at the end, he says, how long until we get to his estate? And the pilot says, we've been flying over his estate for the past 2 hours. Now, I'm emphasizing this, and then the movie continues, because it turns out that all they used is those 2 lines in the film. Here, let me show you. They only really have 3 shots. So we see a wide shot of the helicopter, and then we see Caleb waking up and saying, how long have you been flying over this estate? And the pilot says, oh, we've been flying over it for the past 2 hours. And that's the scene. And what's so great about this is that they realize they don't need all this exposition. It's way more interesting to sort of mysteriously introduce us to this character. We can't quite figure out yet what's really going on. I mean, that opening scene before he's at the computer and we can see that he won a prize and like his coworkers are congratulating him, but we don't know what it is and we don't know where it's going. And this is what happens in editing. You're kind of really finding the story. You're really deciding how much information do we really need to share and how much can we make through just like intriguing the audience. So here's my premise. This is part of the editing block theory. And this is something that certain editors are really, really good with. And so I'm going to say many novice and scripted editors tend to approach editing in a less non-linear way. So they're kind of just executing the plan. And the plan is the script, or the plan is the original vision. However, experienced reality show and documentary editors tend to take more liberty with their cuts. And because of that, they're kind of tuned to really look at the footage for what's the story within. And this is what I would like to share with you as well. Now, here's, first of all, as well, I want to say, I wanted to make the disclaimer, I might not know what I'm talking about. But anyway, some editors don't imagine beyond the script. Some editors are not in touch with the audience anticipated reaction. That's why they're kind of like they're sticking to the script as opposed to just listening to what the film is. And as the editor, you're kind of the ambassador of the audience, and you're using your professional instincts to tell that story on their behalf. And if you're very much in touch with them, you might actually be more open-minded to doing radical changes. Okay, here is my disclaimer. I could totally be wrong about this, but I've been noticing this. I've been working with many editors, and I sense like certain people, they have it, and others they don't. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So now I'm going to show you a mini case study of a movie that I cut. Are you guys with me? Are you still seeing everything? Kind of the chat stopped for me. Ike, are you still seeing people in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know why I can't read it. I wish I could. Maybe I'm just going to say hi. See what happens. Okay, because Ike is actually running the chat right now for me as well. Okay, good stuff. So I'm going to first show you the scene from a movie that I cut in 2014. It's called The Ever After. And the scene kind of takes place between Mark here, who's also the director, Mark Webber, and his wife, Teresa Palmer, real wife and wife in the movie. And he's in New York, she's in LA. He's a photographer that he's a photographer, fashion design photographer that has a weekend job. And she just wants to check in with him because their marriage is a little bit on the fritz. And she just wants to make sure that he's going to be a good boy. And because of that, he's a good husband. He calls and he responds. Let's listen to this phone call and just like pay attention to how he responds. Here we go. This is my cut.
What are you gonna do tonight?
I think I'm just gonna go to sleep soon.
Okay. I've been doing some reorganizing today, so I'm probably gonna end up doing that the rest of the night. Call me later before bed.
Okay, well.
Baby.
Did that play good for you? Let me know if it did. I'm going to make sure I share the audio as well to be just completely safe. Okay, good. Just to be safe, I'm going to play the scene one more time because I feel like you probably didn't hear it. And because of that, I'm going to play it one more time for you. And then I'm going to play the student scene. Here we go.
What are you gonna do tonight?
I think I'm just gonna go to sleep soon.
I've been doing some reorganizing today, so I'm probably gonna
Ike, does this play?
end up doing that the rest of the night. Call me later before bed.
It does.
Okay, well.
It just has a 1 minute delay or so.
Baby.
Yeah?
Something?
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So this is the way that I cut my scene. For some reason, I can't go full screen on this. So now I'm going to play the same scene from a student of mine in the Go to Editor course. And when I saw this, I was like, damn, I wish I would have come up with this idea. So pay attention to how it's different. Do you notice anything about how the conversation is going? Maybe the action? So here we go.
What are you gonna do tonight?
I think I'm just gonna go to sleep soon.
Okay. I've been doing some more. Maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay, good. So, what's different about that scene in the way that Jonathan cut this as opposed to the way that I did? And I wish I would have seen that. I wish he would have been my assistant and he would have shown me this, and I would have then stolen that idea, pitched it to the director, and said, "This is what we should do." Let me know in the chat if you notice anything about what's happening with the phone conversation. Is there something different that he does? I'm going to give you a little hint. It's about the phone. What is he doing with the phone? All right. Yes. So he's putting the phone down. So it he tells more of a story. Yes, he does. But how? How does he tell the story differently? The pauses are intense. Okay. But there's something very physical that he used. He used a shot that I didn't use. It's in the middle of the conversation. Let me play it one more time. I'm not going to just reveal it. I'd like for
What are
you
you gonna do tonight?
to see it.
I think I'm just gonna go to sleep soon.
Okay. I've been doing some more work. Maybe.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, he's actually not listening. But why is he not listening? Yes, thank you. He takes the phone down. In my cut, if you noticed, he's not, because this wasn't the way that the scene was originally intended. The way that they shot the scene is he picks up the phone, he dials, they have a conversation. At the end of the conversation, he takes the phone down, and then he moves on to whatever happens next. So Jonathan decided to use that shot at the end of the scene, and he put it in the middle to indicate that Mark is not listening. He's literally not listening, not just figuratively not listening. He is not listening because he can't hear her. And this is a decision that he made, not because it was in the script. It's a decision he made because he felt he's making a stronger statement. We're feeling more, we're understanding more where this character is coming from. He's just not interested. Whatever she's doing that day, he's not interested. He's on his own train. He wants to just do the phone call, be a good husband, and then he wants to actually party. Because in this movie, actually, next scene is he's like messing around with girls, he's taking drugs, and all kinds of crazy stuff happens that night. And so, very good choice by this editor. And we have 1,000+ students in the course, and he was the only one that made that choice to use that shot from the end and put it in the middle to make it a stronger statement. And that's really sort of sets him apart in a way at that moment. And I contacted Jonathan afterwards, say, "Hey, how did you come up with this? And why didn't I do that? Where were you?" And turns out he just has that out of the box thinking. Now, if you notice on my channel, there's a video about Jonathan where he talks about sort of how he started now working for a trailer house here in Los Angeles. And he did just fan trailers and showed them around, and they were so out of the box that within 24 hours of sending this over to one of those trailer houses, they made him an offer to come over. And so he has a certain specific already sort of ingrained in him, but it's a trainable skill. Alrighty, good stuff. So before we get to the next level of this, let me just get out of this. I just want to mention that this talk was part of Edit Rave, and we're having another live webinar with hundreds of people. Where should I put myself? I'm going to put myself down here. Joining this webinar. So if you have time in about 18, 17 hours, we're going to do a full webinar called Film Industry Secrets, where I share a little bit about my story, how I sort of came from Germany, little Sven, going here to LA, going to film school, and what I learned along the way when I sort of graduated and then ended up working for James Cameron, and then everything else that happened in my career. And it's not just so much like sharing my story, but really figuring out what are the patterns and frameworks that sort of worked for me and then also for others. And what are sort of the things that make somebody maybe hire you, making yourself irreplaceable. So I want to invite you to join us tomorrow. It's at 10 a.m. on Saturday, Pacific Standard Time. And you get there if you go to editrave.com. All right, back to the film, the editing block theory. Okay, so what are the blocks that editors can play with? Well, we got shots, right? A shot is not just an entire take. A shot is a moment within a take. So him taking the phone down, that's a shot. That's a moment. And you can use it and move it around. Then we also have words. Every word is a block, and you can move them around. You don't have to have the actors deliver the dialogue the way it was originally intended. You can move sentences around and even just words. And then finally, sounds. Sounds are building blocks as well. So if you look at, if you listen to Alfred Hitchcock, he actually thinks there's only two building blocks. It's shots and sounds, because he kind of doesn't feel like he wants to tell the story with words. He wants to be more cinematic. But for us mortals, I think words are very important. We do get a lot of emotion and, yes, information as well through words. But good dialogue can make us feel something as well. So I'm gonna limit myself to 3 blocks. Okay, so before we go deeper into the editing block theory, let's dive a little bit into editing as a whole. What is editing? Editing, we shape the timing. And what is timing? Timing is we decide which frame, where the shot is in the timeline, or sort of in the sequence of the movie. And then finally, how long that shot is. That's timing. But we do more. We also do pacing. Pacing is the rate of cutting. Do we cut fast? Do we cut slow? How often do we change, making that next shot appear? But it could also be the rate of change within a shot. So allowing an actor to do a movement or change within a shot is also part of the pacing, because if they're moving fast, it feels fast, right? And then it's the rate of change overall. So the combination of the two, how does the story really change? And then finally, editors control trajectory phrasing. And that's a very complex concept that you may not really be able to talk about with your director, but it is something that we shape. And I recently had a video called The Editor's Secret, and Dr. Karen Perlman she came up with the name of what this should be called, and you can see it in more detail there. But basically, it's 3 things. Are these shots linking or colliding? When you have continuity, when you cut on the action and something's happening in the left hand in the wide shot, and it's happening in the left hand in the close-up, and it just sort of seamlessly cuts together, that's linking. Colliding is doing quite the opposite. If something's moving this way, and then you're cutting another shot where the action goes the other way, you're actually letting it collide, and you're creating contrast. Both are very effective. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. There's a shout out to, can I not even read it? But I think I've just got my first super chat. Thank you. It's Uncle. It won't let me read the rest of the thing, but I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate that you did that. Maybe put your name in the chat, then I can shout you out as well. All right, here we go. What else is trajectory phrasing? The movement flow in different takes. So each take might have a different energy. And what is energy? Energy is kind of intent and attitude. It could be like the intent of the performance of an actor. They could be more angry in one take. It could be less angry. They could be more subdued in another. And by you deciding which take you pick, you're sort of deciding how to sort of channel that energy. Give it a direction. And then finally, it's stress or emphasis. Stress in the sense of magnifying something. It could be the composition in a shot, like you want to show something in a detail, or you want to show something in a wide shot. But it really sort of signifies, look over here. Every cut should say, look over here. And this is where we get to the editing block theory, because every cut you make is basically putting in a block. So here we go. We know editing is when, how long, in what order. We just talked about that. And we're using the building blocks to accomplish that. And what do we do with that? We are shaping movement. We're shaping three types of movement. It's the physical movement, the action that's happening. An actor is throwing a spear and we're following it in different angles. That would be the physical action that we're shaping. And we can cut that very fast, and it feels like this arrow or this spear is flying very fast, or it could be slow, it could be delayed, it could be slow motion. All that. Uncle Stu, there we go. Thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat. Finally, we are also shaping the story. We're shaping how a story will unfold. For example, by creating a narrative chain. This happened, therefore that happened. That creates kind of a dramatic arc where we want to know what happens next. And then finally, and most importantly, we're shaping the emotion. Again, we're the ambassador of the audience. We feel something and we anticipate how the audience is going to feel. And by shaping a scene in a way that it feels just right, that it creates just enough engagement with the audience, that's our job. And if we do it wrong, we might confuse them or we might bore them. But if we get it right, then they're very sort of at the edge of their seat, sort of that lean forward moment where they want to know what happens next. Cool. All righty. So here's the thing that it took me a minute to wrap my head around. But footage has a mind of its own. And I can go in a wide shot as well. Hey, there you go. So it's really, really something that I discovered as I was cutting, that most of my ideas happen on the timeline. Like I can read the script, I can look at the footage, but when I start cutting, when I start selecting and then cutting, that's really when the thinking happens. So again, Dr. Karen Perlman talks about this and says this is probably an extension of our mind, the footage. Like we can't think without it. And I really love that idea because oftentimes I just don't know how to cut a scene until I'm actually working, massaging it. All right. And because of what we call the Kuleshov effect, we know that footage would always tell a story. If you put 2 or 3 shots together, they create some kind of meaning. And that meaning is bigger than the shots on their own. And they will start telling stories, whether you want it or not. The audience is going to try to figure out what the meaning of that is. And that's really, really powerful. How clear and engaging that story is really in the hands of the editor. Because we're making thousands of little decisions as we're telling this film, as we're putting it together. And then, yes, ultimately the director decides on everything and whether they like it or not. But we kind of have to pitch it to the director first so that they can have something to respond to. Now, here's the reason why reality and doc editors have the edge. First of all, documentaries don't have a script. And we also kind of assume when we watch a documentary that it's a story that's being told in a truthful way. And because of that, we believe it. So seeing is truth. So if we know of this, like we show something, people will believe it. It will be actually really, really powerful. It empowers us to do bold things. Has anyone heard the term Frankenbites? Frankenbites basically means you're putting different parts of an interview together to form a new sentence. It could be an interview that was shot today and then another interview that was shot 3 days ago. And this is something that reality show editors use all the time because they're trying to tell a specific story that they're seeing in the footage. And sometimes often they need to tell that story with Frankenbites sound bites. All right. And then we also tend to, instead of like looking at the script, we look at who are the characters, what are the big themes that are emerging as this documentary unfolds. Maybe it's an ongoing shoot, we're still in the middle of it. And ultimately, also the big ideas. So in a way, when you are a doc editor, you're much more a writer. Often you get a producing by or writing by credit, because you're very much involved in shaping the story of the film on that higher level of that writing level. Okay, cool. Again, sorry, I can't show you. I was gonna do a whole re-edit of the White Lotus, not because I think they did it wrong, but there was a scene that was a perfect example where I could go in a completely different direction. Unfortunately, I can't do it here, but again, I want to encourage you to check out our free webinars on editrave.com and do it over there. So, in summary, what are the concepts? First of all, we're shaping editing. Editing is cycles of tension and release, and it has those dynamic shifts. Often a story has a preparation phase before there's a big attack. And then afterwards, the heroes will lick their wounds, they will grow, they will learn from what they've done. And each of them might have a different pacing to it, different feel. Preparation could be slow, attack could be fast. We're shaping that. We don't want to have just one sort of monotone flow of the story. Story should be plausible yet surprising. It's really important. So the audience has a certain anticipation of what's going to happen. And if you actually satisfy that anticipation, it might actually become very predictable and boring. But if you swing it in a different way where it's still plausible, then they might be like, oh, I didn't see that one coming, but now that I know, it makes complete sense. And now I understand what the true premise of the film is because of that. And here's a tip. Now, in all these examples that you didn't get to see, I show you how you really sort of break free from the script, and you make a lot of tough choices where you take things out, you move them around. Now, if you're working with a director for the first time, I wouldn't recommend showing them that editor's cut first. Do the faithful version first. I call it the kitchen sink version. And then afterwards, once they've seen sort of that long, everything is the way that they wanted it, every line is in the script. After that, hopefully they feel like, oh my God, this film needs work. What did I do? Help me. You show them the editor's cut and you fixed hopefully most of those problems. By doing it this way, you're allowing the director to be part of the process and be more invested, have more goodwill, as opposed to just showing them, dude, here's your movie. Just what do you think of it? It's very risky to just like cut for 4 or 5 weeks and then show the director a full film. Never works. You have to have them be part of the process and show them continuous scenes throughout. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Pipois. I appreciate you. Okay, and then finally, the timeline for me really represents a tool that I can think. The timeline enables the thinking. Now, if you've been struggling, and let me know if you have some editing experience in the chat room, but if you have been cutting and you've been struggling, this is probably how I can help you. First of all, understand that this power exists, that you can move things around, you can take things away, you can change things up. Don't stick to the script. Don't feel obligated to do that. Trust the footage and use systems. What do I mean by systems? Well, there's one system that I use all the time, which is I really spend a lot of time in selecting. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I have a very specific way of how I select, where I visually show how I feel the first time I see the footage. If you haven't seen this, you can check out secreteditinghacks.com. It's a free 20-minute mini course where you can watch me do a full selection sequence on this particular scene. Selecting is super important, and it actually enables me to be more creative, because if I've identified all the gold moments, then I will only use those, and by putting them together, immediately I have something really interesting happening without me really trying to mastermind what happened. Thelma Schoonmaker, the editor of Martin Scorsese, who's won, I think, 3 times more Oscars than he has, if I'm not mistaken. She doesn't even read the script. Maybe at the beginning, just to sort of see what's the next movie we're doing together. But ultimately, she sees it in the footage and she reacts to that and cuts the film that way. Did I mention that tomorrow we have a live webinar called Film Industry Secrets? I want to invite you to be there, join me, go to editrave.com. It's a 90-minute presentation where I really walk you through my career's story and then the frameworks that you can apply to break into the film industry and become indispensable. But there are some other cool events happening as well in the next 2 weeks. So on Tuesday, for example, misspelled Tuesday, we have Anthony Francisco, and I only met him maybe like 4 weeks ago, but we've been hanging out quite a while. We went to the movies together, we had dinner together. He went over here and drew a little baby Groot for my wife's birthday, and he's going to be there on Tuesday talking about the artistic process and how this sort of transcends not only his craft as a lead concept artist at Marvel, but how it applies to editing or any other form of filmmaking. How you really sort of prioritize design over like flashy drawing or so. He really thinks very conceptually when he creates these characters, and Baby Groot is inspired by his little son when he was a toddler, and all the movement and all the stuff he saw there, and he emulated that with Baby Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. So check him out on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then finally, who else do we have? We have Roger. Roger Nygaard is an Emmy-nominated editor who cuts on Veep, Curb Your Enthusiasm, White House Plumbers, all kinds of shows. He's going to walk us through a scene from Veep where he shows the 5 different stages that he goes through to arrive at the final cut. And you get to hang out with him, you get to ask him questions, all that good stuff. That's on December 3rd. So we're going to have about another 7 live events from now on, tomorrow until December 5th. So again, join us at editrave.com. We got Kelly Dixon, rockstar editor. She is iconic in the industry because of her cutting of Breaking Bad. If you remember that show, the RV scene where they're like mixing the meth, cooking the meth inside, all the jump cuts, the jittery cuts. She sort of really defined the language of the show and created that. And she was an assistant back then. And that sort of, then she was able to cut her teeth and get the opportunity. So hopefully we get to talk to her. We don't quite know when she is available. She said she will make herself available probably in December, but she's on a show right now. So we have to sort of just listen to when she's available. All right, very cool. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a cool experiment for me. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'd love to know how good the quality of the stream is, because I've basically just pushed a button to see if it works, and would love to see if it actually does work or if this is something I should do more often. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Cheers. And if there's any questions in the chat, I'd be more than happy to answer. I'm going to stick around for a minute here just to let that happen. All right. I see the chat. I don't see the stream, but it's all good. Good stuff. I'm going to hang around for a second because I know there's a delay of a good 30 seconds to a minute before I can really, before you actually hear what I'm saying. So I'll be here for a minute, and yeah, that's what's going on. So I can talk a little bit about the film industry secrets happening tomorrow. So we're starting at 10 a.m. in the morning. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. The Kitty Game MC at Vic, I appreciate you. So we're starting at 10 a.m. in the morning. Spend about 90 minutes with you going over my life journey. I'm going to show you some editing techniques as well, and basically reveal 3 top, what I call secrets in terms of what it takes to break in, and then sort of make yourself really be considered a go-to person in the industry, make yourself irreplaceable, have some real influence, not like social media kind of influence, but influence where people want to see you do well, because if you do well, they will do well. Talk about all that. And there we go. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Cheers.
1 second.
Yes.
Before you go off, I think somebody in the chat has a question. I don't know if that person is finished.
Love from
writing the
India.
question. So how about like waiting for another 20 seconds or so, and then we're going offline.
Sounds good. I'm going to hang out for another 20 seconds because Ike told me somebody has a question. They're just typing it in and they're formulating it. So hopefully that works out. And while we do that, maybe I'll bring up my presentation for tomorrow. There we go. Film industry secrets. Film industry secrets, my unintentionally smart way how I made $1,250 per day editing TV shows and films, and how to ethically knock it off today. That's what's happening tomorrow. Okay, you say, I was just wondering, what movies do you recommend to teach people who don't know how to read editing in movies? And this question is coming from Sugar Free Mocha. And some context, my friends struggle to understand it's an art. Yeah, I hear you, dude. Because it's invisible, right? Editing is invisible. Even directors have a hard time really understanding how powerful it is until they see it happen in the editing room and how they see the transformation. You kind of can assume that a movie works really well, that it's edited really well. Movies that I would recommend is Whiplash. I think it's a very well edited movie. Tom Cruise has won an Oscar for it. It's a very sort of, I would call that colliding style of editing when we talk about trajectory phrasing. So I always recommend that film when it comes to editing. But there are other films that I really enjoy for how the story really moves well, how they're done really well. Jerry Maguire is a great film, I think, that has fantastic pacing. It always grips me. Because I guess it's movies that I want to watch again because they're exciting. Titanic, I think, is very well paced as a movie. So if you want to, there's also a documentary about editing that is called, I think, the Cutting Edge. So it goes very deep on The Matrix, the first one, and how that was cut because it was done during that time. So that's very, very cool to check out as well. What are some good practices when organizing and choosing sound bites in doc style editing? Selecting is very important. Selecting by themes, making actual bins or select reels. What I do, for example, is, let's say I have several interviews and the interview person is talking about a very specific topic. Let's say I cut a documentary about Detroit and the comeback of Detroit, and they're talking about how back in the 70s or 60s it was Motown, and the music was an industry that really revitalized the city back then, or created kind of an influx of a growing population. Whenever I had bites from different people, we had like Jerry Bruckheimer in that, I would just put them all in one select reel so that I could really do like a super cut of all the sound bites in there. So organizing your footage is super important in documentary. Big ideas, big characters, big themes, that kind of stuff. Cool. All right. Thank you again, guys. Really appreciate you. This was fun, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.